You sit down to begin writing your song. You know what chords you want to play. You know what the topic of the song is going to be. But you have one issue. You don't actually know the structure of the song that you're going to be writing. And you don't know how to structure that song so that it's the most meaningful that it can possibly be. How's it going today, guys? My name's Jeremy from My Music Mastery, and today I'm going to show you how to structure your original songs so that they are not only meaningful, but also ear-catching. Now, the first section that I want to bring up to you is the introduction, of course. Now, the introduction is probably the most important part of the song because this is what's going to catch people's attention. You see, you only actually have 7 seconds to make a first impression on someone. The introduction that I gave for this video was pretty ear-catching. It made you imagine things, didn't it? I told a story. I made you visualize. I said, you sit down to write your first song, but you have one issue. That makes you visualize something, right? And it probably relates to you a little bit. Now, videos and songs are two different forms of art. But that being said, it's all the same. You see, you want your song to have the same kind of ear-catching thing. Now, it can be absolutely anything. It can be a guitar riff or a vocal line, or it can even be an instrument that not a lot of people have heard before in music. It doesn't really matter what it is specifically. All that you're trying to do is basically interrupt someone's pattern. For example, a couple months back, I wrote a song called Brighter Days. Now, if you want to check that song out, then I've got it here on the channel. I'll go ahead and link it up right up here in the corner for you. But this song is essentially an acoustic guitar song, and it's got vocals over the top of it. As I was writing it, I realized that it would be kind of boring if it was just acoustic guitar and vocals. And when I listened to the song and what it was about, I realized that at the beginning of the song, before any music was played at all, it would be perfect to have some kind of a thunderstorm song at the beginning. Now, how many songs have you heard that start off with a sound effect like that? I know that there are some out there, but most songs just start off right with the music. And that's why I added it in. I knew that when people listened to it, it would catch their ear. You see, we have some of the lowest attention spans in history now, and if something doesn't catch our ear and is exciting to us, we're not going to stop and listen. Now, to wrap this up, the introduction can be anywhere from 4 to 16 measures long. It can even be 1 or 2 measures if you want it to be. It doesn't really matter. All that matters is that you have some kind of pattern interrupt in the introduction. The next section of the song that we're going to talk about is the verse. This is where the substance of a story comes out. You see, when I write music, I like to think in terms of what story am I trying to tell. And the verse is where I set up the setting, I introduce the characters, whether that's me or someone else that I'm talking about, and I introduce some of the problems that the character is going through. Now, you can have as many verses as you want, but generally, I hear between 2 and 3 verses in a song. How you kind of structure the verses is that the first one doesn't need to be overly exciting. Remember, people are still trying to get used to the song. They're trying to hear what this song has to offer. You still want it to interrupt their patterns like we talked about in the introduction, but once people make it through the introduction, it's more likely that they're going to stay consistently through the song. The second verse is generally where you want to add more structure, more texture to the verse, okay? So you might add a second vocal part, or maybe you add in a counter melody or a counter guitar riff or something like that. And then in the third verse, maybe you change the key, or maybe you add in another counter melody or replace the former counter melody with a new one. Maybe you add a third vocal part or a fourth vocal part even. You're basically just adding new layers and new texture to your song as you move throughout the verses. What I find pretty consistent throughout all music is that verses will be anywhere from 16 measures long to 32 measures long. I've even heard some that are 8 measures long, and you can do that as well if you want it that short. The one consistency that I find though is that as the song progresses, the verses get shorter and shorter. So say the first verse of a song is 32 measures long, the next verse might be 16 measures long. The next section of a song that we're going to talk about is probably the one that most people know, and this is the chorus, otherwise known as the hook. This is the section that when you're singing back a song or when someone's singing back a song, they generally will sing this part because it's the most memorable part of the song. Now, you don't have to overcomplicate this part of the song. I've heard some choruses that are literally one line, and they just repeat over and over again through the 4 or 8 measures of the chorus. I've even heard, if you listen back I was listening to Lithium by Nirvana today, and the chorus of that song is literally just yeah, 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 and it just repeats yeah, yeah, yeah over the whole course of the chorus. So you don't have to overcomplicate this part of the song. Now, this section of the song can be anywhere from 4 to 16 measures long, really. You could push the boundaries a little bit and make it 32 if you really wanted to. I might advise against that though. The next section of a song is the bridge section. Now, this section is going to be completely different from any other part of the song. Generally, you will add in a bridge section if you feel like the song is getting too repetitive and you want to interrupt people's pattern again, like we were talking about earlier. What you can do to add in some variety in the bridge section of a song is that you can either change the key, you can totally change the vibe of the song, or add in a different time signature. You can change up the chord progression even. Now, just to give you an example of this, I'm working on a song right now that's got a very upbeat Latin groove to it, and it's in 4/4 time. And then midway through in the bridge section, I switch it to 7/8, and it's got this psychedelic, really slow rock feel to it. It's definitely something that catches people off guard because they're not expecting it. They're used to this like really upbeat Latin groove, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like Pink Floyd out of nowhere. It's really cool, actually. When it's finished, I'll have it posted up on the channel so that you can take a listen to it. This is going to accentuate the story a little bit. You might find that the person is asking some questions or making some realizations maybe, and realize that you also don't have to have words in all sections of the songs. You don't have to have vocals or lyrics even. You can tell a story through the music of the instruments as well. The next section that we're going to talk about is the solo section. Now, this is used to kind of break away from the story a little bit, but still kind of express some emotions that the character is going through, kind of express some emotions of what the story is trying to tell as well. It's also used to give the vocalist a break from the melody line as well, and also to feature a musician or an instrument in the song as well. Now, you can use any instrument that you want in a solo section. You know, of course you've got the piano solos or the guitar solos or like a violin solo, but what you don't hear often is a bass solo or a drum solo unless you're at a concert. You know, if you want to have like a marimba solo or something like that, I've heard that in songs before. That's pretty cool. It can literally be anything. Whatever you want to put into your song, as long as it fits the vibe and it works well with the rest of the song, then go ahead and have at it. It's your music, you can do with it what you want. Now, the final section of the song that we're going to talk about is the interlude section. Now, you don't hear this a lot within music, but I'll give you some examples so that you know what I'm kind of talking about. Just for example, if you think about Foreplay Long Time by Boston. The song starts off with Foreplay, which is this instrumental, and it's just this heavy rock. You've got a Hammond B3 organ playing, just triplet melody line. You've got power chords guitar, a groove and bass line. It's kind of like a bluesy bass line on just an electric bass, and then drums going crazy. It's pretty cool. There's no vocals at all in this section, and then it fades out, and then it goes into this kind of really weird psychedelic. It makes me think that I'm like walking through a forest at night when I'm listening to it. Kind of a weird trippy thing. And then it goes into Long Time, and that's when the vocals get added in, and that's where the heart of the song really is. I'll give you another example. If you know A Day in the Life by the Beatles, you know that it starts off with this really like dramatic acoustic guitar, really sad, melancholy feel. And then partway through you start getting these weird like orchestral violins playing over the top, and it's just like this. It's a really strange section of the song. And then all of a sudden they cut out, and then it goes to this like really upbeat piano part. That kind of upbeat piano part, and also one last note on that, John Lennon sings in the beginning of the song, and then in this interlude section that we're talking about, Paul McCartney comes in and just totally changes up the vibe. You could also call this section a bridge section, but because they're completely different and it's almost like they're two completely different songs altogether, I would consider it more of an interlude. So that's really what we're talking about here. Now, you can also add in, if you watch my video on The Pretender by the Foo Fighters, you'll notice that there are some interlude sections in there where it's like bridging the gap between the chorus and the verse, for example. It's just like this one measure guitar riff. I would consider that also an interlude. It's kind of a different thing though. It's really just bridging the gap between two sections of the song, I guess, so that it just kind of flows better is a good way to put it. Now, how do you use this? Now, like I've said a few times in this video, treat it like you're telling a story. You know, if you were trying to tell the story of a character who is going through all of these emotions, maybe it's a breakup song, like a love song like you hear all the time. Maybe he's going after his dream of being a musician, even if you want to like break the fourth wall or something like that, or maybe he's going for his passion or whatever it is. You want to tell the story throughout your music, and that's how you'll figure out how to structure your song. You also have to remember that stories all have beginnings, middles, and ends. And when you think of it in that terms, song structure really is just formulating that beginning, middle, and end in your music. Thank you for checking out this video, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you learned how to structure your songs so that they're more meaningful and more ear-catching. Now, before I let you go, I want to let you know that I can remember back when I first started writing music as well. And I had trouble structuring my songs, I had trouble writing chord progressions, and I had trouble writing melodies. I can remember that I would sit down with my guitar and I would be ready to play, but when I would get ready to strum my guitar, nothing would come out because I would just freeze up and I wouldn't know what to play at all. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a formula that I use every single time I write a song now that I was able to sit down and crank out songs as quickly as I can while keeping the quality of them high. Now I tell you this because I want to let you know about a free gift that I've got for you down below in the description. Down below in the description, I've got a link that is going to send you my songwriting flowchart. This flowchart is going to take you start to finish on writing your own music, and it's going to teach you how to do that while staying high quality, meaningful, and authentic to yourself. If this sounds like something for you, then go ahead and go down below in the description and click the link, and I'll send it right to your email box, 100% free. Alright guys, thank you again for watching this video. As always, if you're new to the channel, then be sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, and we'll see you in the next video.